Prairie Fire Part 2. So, there's a reason why I got this book a few months back. Last year, maybe? Yeah, last year. I got this book last year. Not because I wanted to follow this and be like, oh, I'm going to be a freedom fighter. I'm going to be a revolutionary. No. I wanted to see the playbook. Like I said, I didn't have the playbook, but maybe I do. But I'm not the power elite, right? I'm not the one orchestrating or the architect of how all this, synchronized chaos is. I'm not the one organizing this synchronized chaos. I'm just here observing the indicators, noticing patterns, watching people scramble around trying to figure out how to avoid being direct energy weaponized, even though they put themselves in the system purposely in the medical, holistic, energy healing world, and their friends, their family, all the groupthink, religions, politics, science. And so while people are scrambling around trying to avoid being direct energy weaponized, they actually voluntarily put themselves in those situations. And so I'm just like, wow. But this was the playbook. This is the playbook of infiltrating people's body, minds, and spirits, their friends or family, their hopes or dreams, even weaponizing their own children against them. And that's, I can't say I disagree with what they're doing. I can't say I disagree because there's got to be some way to regulate humans and what they do, especially when they're out of control. I can't say I'm against it, because once you actually see it, then you can make a choice on how you would conduct your life from this point forward, or from whatever point then you finally accept that there is no changing the system out there. The system is changing and you have to adapt to it or perish. And so you have the choice. But I had to see the patterns even from the 1960s. And I realized that the whole war for peace type of thing, war for rest and peace. So even if there's only 500 million people in the world, right, when that, if they ever do, which I'm sure they will, realize the Georgia Guidestones way later on, there's still going to be a war of microbes, but it won't be as aggressive. Just pretend like there's little colonies of people all over and their human habitation zone in their smart cities, and the climates are relatively predictable. No one's geoengineering anything. Everything is now finally what it's supposed to be, whatever that is. And let's say there might be some kind of little climate change, and people are already conditioned to deal with even a little bit of climate change. And they also saw what happened in the past, what happens when people have to deal with aggressive climate change. It's aggressive immunological responses, and so they've conditioned themselves to deal with very aggressive climate change. So when there's a little bit of climate change, it's not so astronomically unbearable. It's bearable, and they make sure they never let their body get that bad again where it becomes out of control and then death. So yeah, that's the future. I'm going to say that's the future, is that you'll be conditioned for aggressive climate change. So when the system finally calms down and you don't have as much of the climate change, then people are conditioned to handle it, and they will never go down that road again of herbs and extracts and surgeries and having to use VACCINESs, because that mRNA or whatever it is that's in the different therapies will be in the food supply, which is no big deal. You have an immune system that will then assimilate to the food supply, assimilate to the environment, assimilate to everything. And the person understands what it takes. Because I'll tell you, I understand what it takes. This last 2 months, ever since before my husband left for his vacation. So March and April was flipping insane for me. Finally, this morning, I saw a little bit of blood, but not, it was like dark blood. It was like as if my body released an egg inside, and then finally the dark blood came out, and that was it. There was no other, I didn't have any period, but maybe 1 or 2 eggs were developed during the last 2 months because of that climate change. It caused an immunological response. The body dropped a tiny little egg, but it wasn't enough to have an actual period. And so then finally today, when I feel amazing and I'm, going to the restroom, I see, oh, a little tiny bit of blood, no big deal. It wasn't red, it was brown. which means it's old blood from the last couple months. So that means that I'm still viable, but not to the point where I can't carry my own life through whatever evolutionary sequence. I can handle evolutionary sequences. And I get another awarenesses. I have more mental clarity, and I can see patterns, and I know how to take care of myself. Stay home, stay safe. You know, not have these pie in the sky dreams of saving the fucking world, because that's not going to happen. There's no fucking way. Oh my God, there's no way for me to save the world. I just look on my Facebook and see how many people are totally indoctrinated, even into their activism. That they're like, I can't afford to live this lifestyle that I have. Oh yeah, because you have so much stuff that you don't need. And so you're forced to enslave yourself. You're forced to enslave your friends and family to keep you company. You're forced to enslave those that are indoctrinated by you to stay next to you, because you have told them that you can't live without them and they can't live without you. And so that's the slavery system of how much need and want you have, that you have indoctrinated yourself with your friends, family, and all of your politics, religion, science. And so I figured out a couple, even last year, that Prairie Fire was the actual playbook. But again, the sequence of events and how things are going to play out, well, they're predictable. When it happens, well, it's happening. I'm not on any college campuses. Okay, so I don't see that stuff. I'm here in a little town in Canton, Ohio, and I like my little town. It has its own little problems, but really, I like it because it's calm over here where I live. I don't go and put myself in harm's way or in situations. I don't go and party it out. I don't live in pleasure and paradise. I just keep expanding my brain, because that's the future. And I'm self-motivated. Okay? Yeah, I went to college a few times. I've had a little bit of, my mom gave us a computer program, to do typing and to learn how to use a computer, Math Blaster, the typing tutor. What else? Yeah, word processing. And then I learned more stuff when I went to college early on. But, and so now, I had to learn the computer stuff, even more of the computer stuff, the last 20 years. Okay, and so now I'm able to self-educate. And I can develop my own book reports. I wrote books that some people like, some people don't. Okay, fine. Maybe they were word salad at some point. Maybe they still are today. Who knows? At this point, it doesn't matter. So I just keep developing my speaking skills. I keep developing my written skills. Keep developing my philosophy, learning how to take on different thought processes, even understanding the psychology behind some of the theories that are out there, especially philosophy theories like the Dunning-Kruger effect, like logical fallacy, like, I don't know, even physics concepts. And so this is the time for self-motivated people. As soon as you have to go and ask somebody to motivate you and to give you what to believe, then you'll become indoctrinated to whatever system is going on at the time. And sometimes the systems that are going on at the time will actually work against you. And that's what I realized, is even back in the 1960s, they wanted people to embrace war for peace. And that war for rest and peace. And that meant even themselves. That meant checking themselves into the hospital system, into the surgical system, checking themselves into the spiritual groups so they can do their ayahuasca and play with their hormones, and then also embrace a religion of absolution. And then the group think, pleasure in paradise, hanging out with people, and then supporting each other, right? Being a cheerleader for each other. And yeah, that's how they kept you addicted and kept you under control, through your friends and family. And if you see something, say something. And then they gave you the drugs, the prescription drugs, the cannabis. Then they said, oh yeah, have children so they can keep you company, so you can give to the system. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it keeps going on and on and on. So I'm just gonna kind of read stuff because I like reading shit. But I'll tell you, I was feeling some definite stuff from the heart. And so I read that. Or not read it, but I spoke what I needed to speak the other day. But yeah, so I showed you a picture of Prairie Fire. What is this? The politics of revolutionary anti-imperialism. Political statement of the weather underground. And now we're in weather wars. How many fucking tornadoes have happened this last couple weeks? Tornado upon tornado upon tornado. I mean, you gotta be a little bit alarmed if you live somewhere in the Midwest, like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska. I mean, I would assume that you would think something is going on as far as the weather. But if you think, oh, this is just springtime and it's supposed to happen because of climate change, it's, oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. You're in a war. So the college system has become the system of the 1960s weather underground. Parents, what are you grooming yourselves and your children for? Oh, my kid's so smart. Well, no shit. If they didn't have too much trauma in their life and they're relatively balanced, maybe, relatively, and there's enough energy in the environment and you take them to the doctor, okay, fine, they can cure you and keep you somewhat relatively balanced and taking in information. Yeah, your kids are going to be fucking smart. But how long will that last? So, because if they're smart, they'll be groomed for exploitation. And you can't guarantee it's not going to be a nice life. You can't guarantee it is, and it's not, oh, fuck. Why do I do this? I swear. You can't guarantee it's going to be a nice life. Yeah, you can't. All right, give me 1 second. I gotta correct that. As soon as I go so fucking fast. It is, yeah, sometimes I think I say something, but it's actually something else. All right, and you can't guarantee it's going to be a nice life. Because you can't. All right, you literally have to realize that it's not going to be a nice life. Because it's not a nice life for you. You're fighting stuff. Parents are fighting stuff. And they're passing that fight onto their kids, and their kids don't have what it takes, and they won't survive it. Because how can they? Their parents are barely surviving it. So what do you think your kids are going to be doing? Fighting something that they can't win. Give me 1 second. I just need to do this. Because that's what it's about. It's just correcting your mistakes. Even right at the moment. I could have saved this for later, but continue. Oh. Shit. Okay, give me 1 second. Stay on page. I don't. Oh my God. All right. I hate when this happens. Give me 1 second. Okay. Huh. Okay. It's going to be a nice. Okay. Yeah. Once they get indoctrinated, it's done with. Publish original post. Okay. Jesus Christ. I tell you, when I get on a roll and stuff, I just keep going, and sometimes I don't know. It's whatever. All right. Sometimes you just have to do that. All right, here we go. All right, so, and you can't guarantee it's going to be a nice life. Once they get indoctrinated into a very specific system, their life expectancy will be cut short. And that is so true, because once they get indoctrinated into the medical system, right? They're like, oh yeah, I'm so smart, I'm gonna do this, do that, and they get all their remedies, get their surgeries, and try to keep, do pleasure and paradise too at the same time, and then they drop dead. Why? Because they're in a different climate. They're in a different climate. This climate is accelerating whatever it is they hold inside and accelerating everything that they can't get ahead, and then they feel stuff, and they then use the latest stuff like jelly juice and stuff, which okay, it's nothing poison. But if your intention is not to feel pain and suffering and to not eat all the food in the food supply, then your body's going to cannibalize itself, and then one day, vital organ failure, shut down, whatever. If your intention is to get rich because you see people out there like Taylor Swift or whatever, the system will exploit your greed. Oh yeah, we see these parents like, oh, I'm going to put my kid into this, this, and this, and they're so pissed off at the system, and they've forced their kids into working for the parents because the parents are trying to make up for what they didn't do, and their kids are now compelled to make up for what their parents didn't do. Yeah, these poor kids are enslaved. It's not like it used to be. Times have changed now. The system is giving everyone the chance to compete. They're giving the system They're giving the system energy so your kids have the energy to make connections faster. What do you mean? Well, they're smart. Of course they're fucking smart. You know, I'm smart too once I release the demons. So maybe they don't have as many demons to release, but they're gaining new ones. And they're also, well, they already have the demons within. It's your genetics. It just hasn't realized itself. And so the kids are riding on that energy. And for that short amount of time that they have, they will be like an Imhotep. Who's Imhotep? He was the chancellor of one of the Pharaoh dynasties. He was, and he was inventing things, the first physician. He was an architect, he was an engineer, he was a chemist, an alchemist. And so, they'll make connections faster, like an Imhotep. Oh yeah, they'll be little geniuses. But how long is that going to last? Imhotep didn't last beyond 20 years old. Some of these kids are going to use up all their resources and mature so fast that they may not even make it to 20. That's what some of these parents are facing, is they have really smart kids who are maturing so fast, making connections faster, they won't make it to 20. Because there's so much that they are expected. They're out there in pleasure and paradise, out there performing for their parents so their parents can look good, trying to keep up with everybody. And these kids, of course, can't handle air, food, and water. They have allergies. They have intolerances. There's so much competition in their environment. They have pets. They have friends. They have family. They have activities. They're traveling. Oh, yeah. They're going through that hamster wheel so much faster. And so they grow old faster, die sooner. Just look at what these 20-somethings are dealing with. Major issues with their immune system, their sexual reproductive system. That one girl that's have a heavy period for 4 months. I remember I had a period for 4 months, for months when I was on that Norplant, that implant to deal with birth control when I was in the military. And I would still have my period months. And then, of course, the MREs, the meals ready to eat, made me so constipated. I didn't shit for like days when I was in the military. I couldn't give blood because I was so skinny. I'm surprised I didn't have some kind of heart attack or stroke when I was at basic training, but I had enough in me. So once the system gives you everything that you didn't know that made people famous, and you try to copy them with the information they gave you, like my information. I was trained in a specific way. You couldn't replicate what I did because too many kids have been exposed to violence. Too many kids have been hit by their parents. Too many kids have too many neurological issues. You couldn't replicate what my parents did with your kids today. There's no fucking way. You'll turn them into serial killers. So you just keep your hands off and you let the system deal with it, because the train's left the station, it's done. And so once the system gives you everything that you didn't know that made people famous, and you try to copy them with the information they gave you, it's like giving a 15-year-old $1 million and they blow it in one day and they don't even survive. That's kind of what's going on. All this energy the system is giving everybody, right? People are blowing it. How are they blowing it? Because the energy is making them work faster, work harder, entertain more often, get drunk and do drugs because their symptoms are coming on faster and harder. So they get more symptoms, more drugs, more symptoms, more drugs, more operations. Oh, there you go. Now you're seeing things speed up. Who's the enemy of the day today? It seems before it was Britain, now it was America, then it was America, right? Oh, anti-imperialism, 1960s. America. That's what this whole thing was about. It's anti-America shit. Now it's Israel. Now look at all the thing with all the pro-Palestine. I was watching some YouTube videos this morning, early in the morning, and then I was in a dead sleep afterwards, had crazy dreams. But I was watching some of the videos about those that recognize it. Yeah. The whole pro-Palestine and, of course, the pro-George Floyd, even back in the 2020. It wasn't like this is really cared about. I mean, they do and they don't. But they're used as cannon fodder. George Floyd was used as cannon fodder. The Palestinians are going to be used as cannon fodder. The youth, Gen Z, are being used as cannon fodder. Just look at all the campuses. Look at those who are pro-Palestine, who are anti-Israel. They're cannon fodder. They fed into that, and they're radicalizing 25-year-olds who don't know any better. They're radicalizing 20-year-olds who don't know any better. And now you're seeing terrorist tactics on the college campuses. No different than what these people did back in the 1960s, but it was like the capital. it was different places. Then you had Kent State, right? We just had an anniversary of Kent State not too long ago. That was 10 years before I was even born. 10 years. History repeats. That's right. We're in a turning. We're in the fourth turning. That's the whole 1960s. That's why I posted all those reels with 1960s music of fight wars for rest and peace. Abso-fucking-lutely. When you actually understand what peace is to the mainstream, it's rest and peace. It seems before it was Britain, then it was America, now it's Israel. You see the propaganda of giving you the enemy to blame for whatever? That's what I'm saying. Here, come in, Palestine. Bring in all the fucking migrants. I don't care. Because it's done with. We have already radicalized people to hate Israel. To be all pro-Palestinian, which I get it. Yeah, it sucks to watch somebody get bombed. But they did that so they can radicalize you to go and take up for somebody 6,000 miles away. And so then there's a problem, right? Then you have your reaction. See, those in the conspiracy world should know this shit. But no, they keep falling for the same propaganda tactics of problem, reaction, solution. Alex Jones told us way long time ago, the Hegelian dialectic. So they bomb, so Hamas goes after Israel. Israel goes after Hamas, so there's a problem. What's the reaction? Oh God, Israel's so horrible. Oh gosh, Israel's so horrible. They did 9/11. They did this. They did that. Okay, fine. And then what's the solution? We'll bring in all the migrants. We'll bring in migrants, open the borders. We'll bring in all the Palestinian refugees. So we don't know who the heck was coming. We never knew who was here anyways. That's another argument of psychological operations that will fit. What people will finally figure out what's going on is that no matter what, you don't know who's here. But trouble has been brewing ever since the 1960s. It was just kind of under the radar, and we laid blame over here, laid blame over there, little skirmishes here to distract you from this, and then give you someone to blame, give you someone to love, give you someone to hate. But in reality, it's you. The conspiracy world have been radicalized against your own self. You've been radicalized against your own family. You've been radicalized against your community. And it's still happening. Just look at those who post all the stuff about weather warfare. Okay, we know what happens. How are you going to fucking survive it? Just simply saying, here is the proof that they're doing this, this, and this means fucking nothing. Being right makes no difference if you can't even survive being right or give people the opportunity to figure out how to survive it. Yes, let's just dispense with trying to prove that the system is geoengineering. Now, how are you going to help people survive this? By being a representation. How are you going to point out how they are party to their own destruction? Sometimes it means being the bad guy. Sometimes it means posting something that make them question even their own behaviors and their own beliefs. But again, remember, this is the thing. Many people are too far gone. They're under the influence. They're way behind the 8 ball. Or they're 20-something years old. There's something to prove. No one can tell them anything except for whatever was radicalized into them at the time that they are protesting. You see the propaganda of giving you the enemy to blame for whatever? And then the kids fight award. See, I said award, so what's an award? When you get an award for doing something that is socially acceptable, that is with the consensus, right? That's what awards are, is that you're doing something for the system wants you to do. Whether it's good or right or bad or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's an award. And it's a war. And you are a ward of that system. See how that shit works? One word can tell you exactly who that person. When you get an award, whether it's a Nobel Peace Prize, or whether it's an award at fucking work, or it's an award in Hollywood, you are a tool, you're a puppet, you're a ward of that system, and you're in a war. And they're also resisting and fighting a war they won't win. Kids were never meant to win the war. If they survived the war in their childhood, they could survive adulthood potentially. But there's no guarantee. How many adults out there are fucking who don't have no fucking chance? And you know it, and they know it. Adults my age can't even understand the other side because they have been indoctrinated into the patriot system. Oh my God. Those that worship Trump, that ought to really alarm you with how many people worship Trump. That's the takedown, is those that were given Trump as a savior and as a Satan. Someone to take up for, someone to resist. That's resistance, that's all out annihilation. And they're also resisting, fighting a war they won't win. So people my age that hate the Democrats so much, and they're so for the Republicans and so for Trump, they can't even discern how many psychological operations that are in play, that they can't even see that they've been played. And so they are also resisting fighting a war they won't win. And when you start hating or loving a person, place, or thing, even a country, you have become cannon fodder. How many of those that are pro-Palestine are cannon fodder? Yeah. They've radicalized people into destroying themselves, even the children. The migrants, the freedom fighters, the activists, the parents, the children, the mainstream are cannon fodder to the system. If you want to survive this, educate yourself. Don't hate anyone. Release those demons of trauma from the last thousands of years. Stay home and stay safe. And be careful embracing who somebody wants you to hate or love. Good luck. The system wants you to die for your cause, and it doesn't matter what cause it is. They want you to die for your politics. They want you to die for your religion. They want you to die for your science dogmas. They want you to die for a cause. They want you to die for your country. They want you to die for your freedom. They want you to die for your friends and family. They want you to die for love. They want you to die for rest and peace. For peace. That was the whole thing about John Lennon. He was basically casting spells of rest and peace on everybody, especially during Woodstock. When you have professed you will die for whatever, the system will make sure it happens. That's what oncology is. That's what the energy healing world is. That's what all the holistic Holocaust is. Remember how many people were dodging the draft during the Vietnam War? Once you get wind of this is what the intention is. How will you get out of the war? That's my question to you. Because the war is everywhere. As soon as you indoctrinate yourself into a group think, how will you go AWOL, absence without leave, that's a military term, without being court-martialed? Not everybody will survive. If you understand where I'm coming from, you have a chance. But I'm not saying you're going to survive. But at least you might have a chance because you'll have to fight your friends and family to get the fuck out of that war. Because they will keep you in it. So will people on Facebook. So will everyone that you surround yourself with. That you are so addicted to their love and their hate and their whatever. That's what the system is censoring. That's why the system is censoring biblical scriptures. That's what this because you are declaring war on somebody else with that information. It becomes an us versus them situation. And that includes the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Hebrews, the Christians. I don't see too many Muslims saying stuff. And if they do say stuff, I don't see it because I don't have too many Muslims on my Facebook that are saying, all this stuff, because then there's that whole stigma of all the terrorist crap. Okay? So I don't see too many Muslims saying stuff like that. But I see a lot of Christians say stuff. I see a lot of Hebrews say stuff through the Bible. Okay? And it is a declaration of war. A direct and indirect declaration of war. It becomes an us versus them situation. And that's exactly what Christianity, Judaism, Hebrew, energy healing, the ascension people, all the tantric sex people, yeah, it's even implied in your beliefs. All the holistic people, us versus them. All the anti-VACCINE people, all the pro-GMO or anti-GMO, all the people who are intolerant to air, food, and water, all the ones that say, only eat this food because this food is poison, you have declared war on your fellow man when you have taken a side, saying that all food is poison, the air is poison, the water is poison, everything is poison. Here, do my shit. Here, don't do this. That's why I stay home and stay safe. I know how dangerous groupthink is, and during these unpredictable times, those who love you could also be the ones to destroy you. I would rather respect myself than be loved by millions. I don't want to be hated either, but that's inevitable when you say things that people can't face that they're a part of, and they are actively destroying themselves and their children and their friends and family. And they embrace it by saying it was God's intention. Or they're just under the influence. So they justify it. Not that you can change them, but point it out. Some people will wake up. Some people have already woken up and know what's going on. Others have absolutely no intention to wake up. They don't care. Or they do care. They have no way to get out of it. They're too indoctrinated. So that video I posted, Antifa rages under disguise in Portland. Yeah. Oregon. I mean, the West Coast is like the West Coast and East Coast, major hub of major aggressive prairie fire part 2. Major aggressive. Antifa rages under disguise in Portland. Absolutely. Yep, here we go. He gets it. The guy that was narrating that whole situation. Sending your kids to college is now like sending your kids to war to learn terrorism. Prairie fire part 2. Prairie fire part 2. I understand shedding a light on discrimination and whatever, and I get it. There's a point when you don't, where if you didn't know what system's intentions were, they're taking it. What the fuck am I saying? I understand a shedding light on discrimination, whatever, and I get it. There's a point where you didn't know what the system's intentions were and what they were doing. So what do these kids do? So what do these kids do when they're being sent to war called academic prairie fire? The liberal way to change the world. So what? Yeah. Anyways, I know this is work. I was doing this last night when I'm like awake. God. All right. You know what? Whatever. You're gonna. But this is part of when your mind goes so fast. Even technology can't keep up with you. And then your brain sees what it wants to see. It doesn't see what it actually says. It sees what it wants to see. So that's fine. So I understand shedding a light on the discrimination and whatever I get and whatever. And I get it. There is a point. There's a point where if you didn't know what the system is doing, intentions were, now it's time to know. Now it is time to know. And so what do these kids do? And so what do these kids do when they have been sent to war? When they have been sent to war called academic prairie fire, the liberal way to change the world? There is nothing to do. They have been conscripted by their parents to fight a war and die for a cause. Okay? That's essentially what's going on. And die for a cause. And that's, yeah. So, I had to make sure I corrected that. Jesus. But that's essentially what's going on. And so, okay. And so what do these kids do when they have been sent to a war called academic prairie fire? The liberal way to change the world. There is nothing to do. They have been conscripted by their parents to fight a war and die for a cause. Maybe it's time to look online. Look at online. Maybe we look at the we look at the local community college. But even then, all right. So I'm gonna make sure I'm just gonna. Okay. Maybe it's time to look online. Maybe we look at the local community colleges. But even then, you can get radicalized there. Maybe then do online certification or go to a trade school. What are these kids getting college degrees in when the competition is so astronomical? American youth are fighting it out in the classroom and on the campus. They're being used as tools. For your kids not to be so extraordinary that you get a free ride. For your kids to be so extraordinary that you get a free ride to a European school Yeah, that's few and far between. Few and far between, if at all. There's too many European kids that are smarter than American kids. But how many kids are really that smart? I'm sure they're smart. But how many kids are so smart that they would get a free ride to a European school away from all the violence in America? So maybe it's time to stay home, homeschool, even college. I'm not sure what there is to look forward to in the future. Look forward to in the future now until the system has cleaned up the mess in America, the West, all over the world. Yeah, there really isn't. This is the thing. This is where parents have to realize the world that they're living in. And when they send their kids off because the parents are tired, they want their own whatever. I get it. You send your kids off to war. You got to take care of yourself. But I don't know, man. Some of these kids are too far gone. The parents can't do anything. So the easier it is to unload them into the military, unload them into a school system, unload them to somewhere where the kids can have to fight it out and hopefully they survive. Maybe that's the only thing that these parents can do to save themselves. But these parents out there are probably not going to save themselves. Okay? They're not. They're just going to go and do whatever pleasure in paradise, and then the kids are off to war, doing whatever, and then they get sacrificed, and it's thoughts and prayers. And that's kind of how shit is going to happen. And I see that, and I'm like, but I see these parents are deluded into thinking that their kids are special. No, your kid is not special. No kid is special. They just have whatever they have. Okay? And the system is going to exploit that until the parent wakes up and figures out how to do something different. And if the parent's greedy, then the kids will be greedy. And so that's kind of how stuff works, because they've been indoctrinated in a system a long time ago, and their kids are in deficit. And when kids are in deficit, how can they make something out of nothing? They have to replicate what was given to them until they can redirect. And who knows if they can redirect. But yeah, wow. And so, yeah, sleeper cell attacks on U.S. soil. Violent protests and sleeper cells in America. The Butler County Sheriff said so. That's more than just cyber attacks. There's going to be a lot of different attacks. And then, and even the weather warfare stuff. Stand by before bed. This is meteorologist Noah Berggren. Weather Underground. Meteorologists. They don't want to say weathermen, right? Because that would imply that they're back in the 1960s. So they say meteorologists. Again, I remember when I met some of the meteorologists, Ross McGowan. No, not Ross McGowan. Pete Giddings. That's right. Pete Giddings over there at KGO. When I was a nanny and my boss worked for ABC, and I was taking the kid, we were doing exchange. I brought the kid to ABC so they can go with their ski trip, and I would stay home and watch the dog and whatever. And I met Pete Giddings at KGO, and he was Channel 7 News meteorologist. But I said, oh, look, Alex, there's a weatherman. And he's like, no, I'm a meteorologist. I'm not a weatherman. I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm in San Francisco, the Weather Underground. It's like, so all these weathermen or meteorologists, yeah, they're part of. That's why Jim Cantori is everywhere when shit goes on. That's why he was there during the freaking mass ritual of the eclipse. That was a whole preemptive to then the weather warfare that's going on. Stand by before bed for severe weather update. Going to be nasty this week. Oklahoma to Kentucky. Posting momentarily. Yeah, no shit. And so the youth have been weaponized, okay? And so I posted this about Shiva is the Hindu god of destruction. That's all the marijuana. And is also associated with rebirth. He is one of the 3 most important gods in Hinduism, along with Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the protector. So this is like the Bhagavad Gita, right? Shiva is often depicted sitting with his legs crossed, and that's all the yoga poses, holding a trident called a Trishula, and with a third eye that can burn anyone to ash. That's the whole third eye blind type of stuff. That's the whole direct energy weapon. That's the amplified particles. That's the amplified sun. He also associated with many symbols and weapons, including snakes, deer, rainy season, and Nandi the bull. Oh, there you go. So 1969, mass ritual, White Lake, New York, Woodstock. 3 days of rest and peace and music. Oh, yeah, I made these connections all right. 1999, Woodstock. right? 99 mass ritual. These kids are being radicalized. My age, Gen X. Okay. Then you have the annual Burning Man, annual mass ritual. Then you have the 4/8/2024, the eclipse mass ritual. Then the whole standing in solidarity with students of Columbia University mass ritual. So then you see what's going on right now with all the universities. So there's that. Then you have the tornadoes. Then you have Lord Shiva, god of bang, god of the marijuana death. So then you have John Lennon. Imagine, that's the most popular song. Imagine being dead. This was a death spell. Sung by John Lennon. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, right? Above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for just today, right? No future, just live for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in rest and peace. Peace. You may say I'm a dreamer. I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us. Oh, come on. He's beckoning you to join him in the death. And the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. Now, I understand that. Imagine, if you can, no need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer. I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one. Go figure. So I understand what Klaus Schwab was saying. You will own nothing and be happy. Absolutely. I mean, I own a house, but there's a lot to making sure this house stays, up to keep. Yeah, it's a lot to own. When I see some of these little houses that are small and they're self-sufficient and they're cute. They have a kitchen, you have a study, and you have a bedroom, and you have your bathroom. 1 or 2 people can live there. I mean, it's small, yes, but maybe you have a 2-bedroom so you can just leave if you need to. But it's really, when you have something that's small, that's that compact, it's really for 1 person. It's not really for 2. Because I'll tell you, in this house, with the 4 floors that I have, I'm so glad I can go to my room if I need to escape because maybe we're having an argument, or maybe I just need some time away, or maybe I need to sleep and he's watching his movies or shows and I need to take a nap. And so I have a place to go and retreat to. But when you're forced to deal with somebody on a daily basis, hourly basis, yeah, that's when you have clashes. So you need to have time away, time and space away. But I understand now what they're saying is that when you own nothing, you'll be happy because then you don't have that stress of keeping up with everybody and collecting more stuff. Okay? But as far as the whole fight for peace, nothing to live and die for, or something like that, nothing to kill or die for, well, I mean, yeah, well, that's true. You want to release the demons, but where are these demons going to go? When you release the demons, they're going to go somewhere else, and what are they going to do somewhere else? It's going to affect you ultimately. So, I don't know, the system does what it has to do, and you just have to just hope that you survive it. But yeah, John Lennon, I mean, I understand why him and the Beatles and all those people, the Birds, and then you have the Eagles, and then you have the whole Woodstock. I understand why they existed, and then you have, the Grateful Dead, and I'm like, oh gosh. Then you see the writing on the wall. Now you get it, what the whole, go to war for peace is, go to war for rest and peace. Because that was the major kickoff to the decline, the depopulation. And it's not a bad thing, okay? Again, it's not a bad thing. But I want to give people the option to figure out how to strategize their survival despite what's going on. You can't stop it. It's already here. But how do you survive it? How do you strategize your survival? And that would mean probably not falling into the same traditions as your parents. That when you have someone like in the J world that sees this, and then you see a mainstreamer out there is like donating to cancer, or they're, with a family that's well-to-do and they're all about pleasure and paradise and big cars and big boats and a lot of money. And you're like, ooh, for a minute, but then you get caught up in that and it's hard to get out. That's emotional, financial entanglements. And so if you don't get caught up in that right off the bat and you find a way to sidestep all that pleasure and paradise and temptation, then you might stand a chance, but you're not out of the woods yet. Now you're just giving yourself the space to then finally release your demons without destroying something or trying to to cure them, because they'll come back and bite you later on, even more so. Okay? So, I don't know how these kids are going to do it. They can't. There's no way. And so John Lennon said, everybody loves you when you're 6 foot in the ground, because they loved you in life. It's hard to turn that off. They died for you. And so, boom, I said, what would happen if people respected you more than they loved you? They would respect you in life and hate you in death. Abso-fucking-lutely. So then one would want to live so they would be respected and would never want to die because they would be hated. But when you're dead, it doesn't matter, right? But here, it's when you love and hate people in life that they can't wait to die. So it's what we do to our friends and family. We love them and hate them to death. So then they die, right? So it's when you love and hate people in life that they can't wait to die, to please you or to get away from you. Change the culture, you change the future. You change the generation, you change the future. Well, right now, the youth, the Gen Z, they're being changed. They're being used for change. They're changing, and they won't be the future. They'll be gone. And the only ones to be left, the ones that can survive the wars that are being perpetrated upon us in politics, religion, science, and everything. And then also employ another culture. While the old culture is going away and your kids are radicalized against you and everything else, maybe you Gen X, maybe baby boomer, but I doubt that. Maybe Gen Z, maybe if they can get out from that. Maybe millennial, but even then, I don't know. We'll see. That's why you cut down the amount of people you surround yourself with. People love and hate you to death. The less people you surround yourself with that love and hate you, the better chance you have to survive if you're looking to be respected. Respect for and from yourself goes much further than being disrespected and loved and hated by 10 people around you. So that's all strawberry fields forever. Now, there's a lot of different meanings behind that people have said. But a few of the bars, let me take you down, die, because I'm going to strawberry fields. Nothing is real. Simulation, right? Nothing to get hung about. Temporary. Strawberry fields forever, right? Living is easy with eyes closed. Yeah, it's easy when you're blind. Misunderstanding all you see. Yeah, misinterpretation. And so you keep going, and then you can kind of see how so many meanings can be applied to the words and what they're saying relative to where you're coming from. And so that's why the 1960s was so great, because you can take all the words and think that it's like, oh, we're going to have fucking utopia and kumbaya and everyone loves each other. And yeah, they love each other to death, and they turn predatory and cannibalize each other. Now, I'm even watching, this is for Audrey, I'm even watching this show, which is a little bit violent, called Outlander. And it's about a lady that is English in the turn at the end of the World War II, so the 20th century, and then somehow she's thrust back into the 17th century, and she's in Scotland as, an English person, and then she is with a bunch of Scottish people and what they do and some of the the medieval shit that they've done back in the 17th century, 1800s, and all that. And so, so I'm watching that going like, oh, look, it's Audrey's people, Scottish, and the Scottish brogue. And so it's kind of cool watching even just where Appalachia, because I looked at my husband's background, and yeah, he's English and German. So Everly is English, and he has also his German. And so I would imagine that, yeah, English, German, my husband is English and German. And that's freaking pretty cool. I always look at him like, God, he could be like a musketeer. He could be a Civil War person. He could be some pilgrim coming over here. He could be someone over there in Scotland if you want to be, some English. I mean, my husband has the face of time. He has a face of history. People here in Ohio have the face of history. It's so interesting. Because when you're in California, you get everybody all over the world coming in, melting pot and all that stuff. When you go to the Midwest, and you go to places like that would be part of the 13 colonies, near the 13 colonies, and you have all the Daughters of the Revolution and all that, and you're like, whoa, you're seeing history. It's extraordinary. It really is. When you finally can stop and take a look, it's pretty awesome. Okay, so yeah. Respect yourself. Respect yourself. Ah, standing in solidarity. Oh yeah, I have to call this out. I just have to say this. So those that are pro-Palestine and they're saying, oh, thank you to all the universities. So we have these people that are right wing, right? They are 9/11 is an inside job, so they're right wing. They're part of the Alex Jones crowd, right wing. They love Trump. They hate whoever the enemy was given to them was Israel. I saw that way back when in 9/11. They're blaming Israel for 9/11. Okay. And so then something goes on in Gaza, right? And then you have all the same people who are right wing, who are patriots, hate Israel, pro-Palestinian. And then you see them take on liberal points of view. Then all of a sudden, the right wing turned into liberals. That's what I'm saying. The right wing are turning into liberals. More than just bleeding heart. Like terroristic liberals. Like this. And so I'm looking at some of these pages that are very pro-Palestinian, and they're out of Jacksonville, Florida. So they're American, and they're taking up for somebody overseas, and they haven't even saved themselves, really, whatever that means. And so they're thanking all the different universities for having their occupation, the whole occupy this, occupy that. That's a left. That's a Prairie Fire shit. That's this. So I have to say this. I called somebody a liberal a long time ago, and they took offense. So I was in the independent movement a long time ago. Okay? Yeah, I was dating somebody in that. And they were heavily into it. And they ran an office in San Francisco. And during that time, I took on that political thought process. I even did the cold calling people, doing surveys, asking them what they thought of Bush. And at that time back then, it was Bush and somebody else. Jeez. Oh, was it Al Gore? I think it was Al Gore. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was Bush and Gore at that time. And so we were asking people what they thought of the two-party system and what do they think of the independents. And then that time was like the Ralph Nader and what's the other dude's name? He was the billionaire tycoon in Texas, Ross Perot. And Ralph Nader was speaking over there in Quebec. Not Quebec. It was in New York. I went there, but I was sick, so I didn't even go to some of that. So yeah, it was just like, I was not really, once I figured out that there was no difference, and I really saw them as a liberal than anything else, I didn't even see the people that I was hanging out with as conservative, because a lot of them were part of the LGBTQ community. So that back then, the conservatives didn't hold a lot of LGBTQ. Maybe recently we have a lot of people who in conservatives who are gay as well as black, but back then, the LGBTQ is mostly, if anything, was Democrat, or in San Francisco, they were independent. And so I have to say this, I called somebody liberal a long time ago, and they took offense because they were heavily into the independent movement. And also, guess what? When I was doing those cold calls, I had the highest number of people would talk to me. And so, yeah, that was my first telemarketing experience. was calling up those lists and saying, hey, what do you think of this? Calling up the different jurisdictions, even in San Francisco. And there's a lot of San Francisco politics. There was that whole Gavin Newsom and then that Matt something, he was an independent. And then I did research on the independent movement, who started, it was Fred Newman, who's in social psychology or something. I forget that whole term. And it was part of this. That's why I called the person liberal, and they didn't like it. So even though they were independent, they thought it was separate from liberal. And I found out they were working at Columbia University. A very liberal Ivy League university. So the person has a doctorate or something, or a master's, maybe a master's. A master's in something at Columbia, and then worked at Columbia. So the person's highly educated. Yes, I've dated some highly educated people. But I had my own ideas. Education doesn't mean that, you know better than somebody else. You can use that as leverage. You can use that as a tool against people. You can play the whole Dunning-Kruger effect and be like, oh, you don't know enough. You're just saying that you know, and play that game. But even those that don't have degrees have a lot more freedom to develop new arguments that weren't given to them in school, in their degree programs. And so I called it a long time ago. I knew the independent movement was another liberal conservative psychological operation. My instincts were correct 20 years ago. And so I finally got out of that relationship. They could not provide me a model I was looking for that was separate from the model that we were working within. So I left the San Francisco, New York independent movement because it spanned both coasts. I mean, it was post 9/11, and it was still the country was reeling from that, trying to find a way to do something different. Columbia University is considered more liberal than conservative. And I Googled this in the United States, and is one of the most liberal colleges in the country. It's the only Ivy League institution on 24/7 Wall Street's list of the most liberal colleges in America. And some say it's very liberal. Columbia is committed to free speech and is led by Lee Bollinger, a scholar of the First Amendment. So yeah, when you have the First Amendment of free speech and gathering and all that stuff, right? You know, freedom of the press and all that stuff. And then you have the black bloc coming in. Oh, I'm going to go and assemble peacefully. And then somebody comes in, like that one of those videos were saying. Those videos were saying that if you don't do violence like we're doing, they actually will attack you. So you have those that come in that try to do peaceful demonstration. And then you have the extremists that were run by this that come in and force you to do violence. And so Columbia University, all these different universities are part of the takedown of the USA. I said, and then there's this storm chaser or be a foot soldier chasing the weather during these wars. Right? Help wanted. Experience Oklahoma, Kansas storm chaser. And so I said, the kids in the military are like students in the academia. Cannon fodder. Cannon fodder is a derogatory term for soldiers or other combatants who are considered expendable in the face of enemy fire. And your kids are expendable to the system. You have to be the one to respect your kids. But how many parents respect their kids? Not many. Not when these parents are getting a lot of mileage out of their children performing the way the system wants them to perform. It can also refer to an exploitable person, group, or thing. For example, celebrities who have become cannon fodder for the tabloids. Oh, they're cannon fodder for the system too. They get their awards, the Oscars, right? The Peabody Award. When you realize this, you don't engage in the war that was never started by you. If you're born in war like I was, then you do everything you can to survive it. But that should be a lesson to never join in wars that were never started by you. I'm 50 years old. I was born in war, fought everything my whole life. I even started wars, and I finished them. I didn't always win them. I mean, I started them, and then the system wouldn't let me take it to the next level. But I would start wars, and finally what I did was able to go to the court and sit there and see if I could fight it out with that person. They didn't show up. And when someone declared war on me and I showed up, and they never showed up to their own fucking court case, they never showed up. Oh yeah, they can say, well, I got her to go all over here and spend money. Well, that's fine. If I didn't show up, then you would have won, and I would have had some kind of thing slapped on me that would be traceable in the justice system. But no, I showed up. I was going to face you. You didn't face me. Case dismissed. So yeah, you made me go and do whatever, but you didn't get what you wanted, was me to have some kind of judgment on me. And now it's all done with. I'm done with all that. But I will show up at a war. If you declare war on me, I will show up. If I declare war on you, then I better fucking win, right? So I don't declare war on anyone, so I'm tired of fighting people. I'm tired of it. I paid my dues. Now it's up to the youth to learn their own lessons. I hope they have the strategy to survive them. If you're a student or a person in the military, this is the time to strategize your survival. I was in college and I was in the military. My parents, okay, they had a choice. Join the military or go to college back in the 1960s. They were against the war, and so they went to college. And they became academic combatants, intellectual soldiers. That's right now what's going on, is we don't even have intellectual soldiers over there in the college system. They don't have time to be intellectual. They're just now cannon fodder. They've been radicalized. They've been traumatized through the images of what's going on over there in Gaza. And they have friends and family over there. Maybe they are the religion, maybe they're not, who knows? But now they've become so radicalized because of the trauma. There's no way for them to be intellectual. Now they're just enemy combatants. And they've been radicalized against their own family, their own friends, their own society. And they will be the change agents. And then when they die, okay, we thank them for their service. I understand the reasoning, but now you have a choice. You can become a physical or intellectual soldier, but survive the war, which means you must understand both sides. Because if you take a side, what happens if the system deems you as the enemy? You could be hurting yourself thinking you're hurting the enemy. It was never your war. And that's what's going on right now in those in the medical, holistic, energy healing world. All the activists, they have been activated to think they're fighting enemy and destroying it and hurting it when they're actually hurting themselves. Through their addictions, through their activism, through their resistance, through their inability to understand why the system does what it does, through their inability to provide a different argument, to provide people a path to think about something different besides what's obvious. Yes, we're going into artificial intelligence. You know why? Because most of your friends and family will not be able to sit in their job and push that button. So guess what? We have a machine that can push a button that your friends and family won't be able to do because they're dead or incapacitated or fighting a cancer. Why they're going to have self-driving vehicles? Because the trucking industry is going to go out the door because so many of the truckers out there won't be able to handle being on the road. They're dying from casualties and chronic illness. Gen X is getting older very quickly. How many millennials are going to drive a truck when they've inherited their mother and father's issues and conditions? Gen Z ain't going to fucking drive a truck. They're too busy out there radicalized against a person, place, or thing, or they're trying to survive their own genetics. That's why we're in AI. That's why. Okay. So what are you doing to provide another storyline behind what it is that you're posting out there? So people get it. Yeah, we know. We're going into AI. Yes, everything's going to be automated for the most part. Yes, we probably have a cashless society. How are you going to survive it yourself? And how are you going to give people around you an option, some hope? But if you already decided for them that they can't handle it, then you're going to keep fanning the flames of resistance. And they won't survive. And maybe you're the only one that survives. But hey, that might be a little lonely venture around you. That's why I provide just the other side of the story. I say things that no one will fucking say. Why? Because I give a shit about people around me. I give a shit about the people that I come in contact with, that some I know will have no chance because they'll not see my information. They probably won't even understand it. Some people don't have the capacity to understand my information. Like literally, they don't have it neurologically to actually get the concepts I am presenting to them. But I hope that some do. And the ones that I do reach, and I'll never know everyone that I reach. And I don't need to know. I don't want to know. The ones that I hope that, the ones that I do reach, they have a chance. They have a chance. But that's who I talk to, the things that I don't even know are even being reached. Those of you that know what I'm doing and you're doing what you do, I understand it. And some of you are fighting your own battles, and I get it. That's why I have to be a little bit more, I don't know, patient with those in their development of whatever. Some of you are just getting it out, and I get it. It took me 7 years to get it out and bitch at everybody and keep perpetrating the same thing, and I get it, and you're maybe not there yet. But that's maybe what, at the next level, when you can finally calm down, you're going to have to fight your battles. That's just inevitable. But when you can finally sit for a minute with your thoughts and cultivate how to present a different argument, start expanding, start developing new neural pathways. That's the next step. Some of you are still within the fight of the psychological or the physical fight. And so then how you channel that energy is through the activism. And I get it. At some point, will there be an intellectual thought process? Because the body is finally feeling that it can survive the fights. It can survive the fights and not be so predatory. That's the other side of it. It's going to take time. And so academia and university was the backbone, the heartbeat, and the immune system of the Western world, or at least America. The students were the antigen and the antibodies relative to what they were studying and why. So what do we mean by antigen? Well, they either were against something or they're for something. They were either attacking something or they were defending something. Whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. That's what antigen, that's what your immune system does. That's what the lymphocytes, that's the leukocytes, that's what all the different phagocytes, the innate and the adaptive immune system is your defense system. And it's been compromised by your belief system. In a slower frequency time, they were used as tools to develop the students, to develop experiments and social constructs, and even write the past, the present, and the future. So WRITE. They were programmed to develop cultures and families and organizations, developing positive and negative reinforcement, and even constructing arguments, supporting or developing conflicts around whatever it is they were doing. Everything would be well documented. So all the theses, okay, all the awards, like Leonard Hayflick and him discovering the somatic cells have a certain lifespan of 50 times redouble itself, but that there's the immortalized germline cells that then bring in a cabinet of somatic cells that would then develop another prototype. That's evolution. That's the uracil in the DNA. Okay? So everything would be well documented, justified, financed, and awards were given out for the most creative innovation developed. One day, the university immune system, the heartbeat of America, would be weaponized against itself and whomever they were experimenting on. The students would be antigen antibodies against whatever it was programmed to target. And that's what's going on now. That's what Antifa is. That's even all the right-wing patriots. They were programmed to annihilate each other. Then the students were seeing things they didn't want to see, like Gaza. And, of course, the cities. So you saw that kid, Kyle, what was his name? No, I forget. Anyways, that kid that hurt that person over there back in 2020, the whole BLM stuff. So the students were going to see things they didn't want to see, and they would look for the enemy, like spybot, search, and destroy. Over time, the academic university system would annihilate itself once the mission was accomplished. This is the beginning of the ending. Okay, so the whole George Floyd, that whole thing with that kid that went and shot somebody in defense, you know, the takedown of the cities through all the different robberies, and yeah, this is the beginning of the ending. It doesn't matter if you think one group or a bunch of people run the world. What matters is you know that nothing lasts forever, that there is no point in resisting what's already set in motion with people who've been radicalized to set it in motion. Even if they didn't know what it was they were doing. They might have been told one side of the story, like my parents, right? But maybe they didn't know there was another part of it that also would be involved. It doesn't matter whatever story was told to you. What matters is you earned your keep. Now survive whatever it is you supported in the past, present, and potentially the future. Because all of us have been complicit. We were born from evolution, and some of us will choose to pass away. Others will survive evolution. And there's no point in resistance. And you will never, ever be in charge, because whoever was in charge 20 years ago is not in charge today. Might be born from the same people. But remember, everybody changes and evolves. What was developed 100 years ago has evolved into what it is today. But you, as a person who will never, ever be in charge of a society. Okay? So some of you who are 9/11 truthers, some of you who are pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, some of you who are a Democrat or Republican, you'll never, ever be in charge. Even your group of people will never really be in charge, because the system will evolve. And there'll be different people taking the place. Klaus Schwab will be replaced by Noah Yuval Harari. And Yuval Noah Harari, yeah. And when he's done, somebody else will be in charge. Somebody else will be taking the place of this and that. And everyone will have a chance to spout off their wisdom and change the world. The reason why you were given pleasure in paradise and the reason why you were given so much money was so the system can perfect what the intention was, to regulate humans. And yeah, you got paid very well for it. If you were a doctor or a nurse or a religious person or a political person or a scientific person or whatever, and you were part of developing life and also taking it away, you got paid very well for it. So it wasn't like the system took anything from you that you didn't say okay to it way in the beginning and even during the process. And so will you survive what you've contributed to? Well, that's up to you. So don't let your college degree license limit your evolution, or you become a vicious intellectual exhibiting vicious intellectualism. Climate change is fucking up the pro-vaccine industry. The science and the vaccines might be safe, but the environment has sped up and changed. So I posted that because I noticed my difference in how I argue with people online. And so I was in the Neil deGrasse Tyson group, and someone posted something about Dunning-Kruger effect, whatever that is. Or whatever. That's how you say it, yeah. Anyways, and so I said, here's what I said. Oh my God. Dunning-Kruger effect. A type of cognitive bias, this is what it is, are people with little exercise or ability assume they have superior expertise. Oh, expertise, not exercise. A type of cognitive bias are people with little expertise or ability assume they have superior expertise or ability. This thus overestimation occurs as a result of the fact that they don't have enough knowledge to know they don't have enough knowledge. It's like you don't know what you don't even know. Well, if you don't know what you know, then you don't say anything, right? When people say something, they have a knowledge from a particular place. Now, whether or not they can articulate their place is one thing. And if you can't articulate your position, then yeah, you won't be able to win against someone who can articulate their position using big words, vicious ways. And I posted, this is what I posted. Okay, hold on. This is what I said. Give me 1 second. Oh, okay. Yeah. Give me one. Oh, it was, well, that's fine. What did I say? Okay, that's what I said. But to diagnose someone with that would also be an example of this type of effect. Because who are you to say your experience or expertise and knowledge is far superior than somebody else's? Who's to say you have enough knowledge to understand the other person's point of view? And since they can't even see that, that is the example of someone is not knowing they don't know enough to know something. And so this is a logical fallacy. So even the person diagnosing and claiming that person is under the Dunning-Kruger effect also exemplifies the person who is saying this is also under that effect, because they don't know what the person knows or doesn't know. And the only way the person would know is the person can articulate. If they can't articulate, then how would they know? So they would assume that they're the expert, because the other person couldn't provide an argument to them that would satisfy them. But I don't think anything would satisfy someone who's in major entrenched vicious belief. So this is a logical fallacy. You don't even know that you don't even know you exemplified this when you diagnose someone with this. When the premise assumes a conclusion. This whole fact is an oxymoron. Why would you say that's an oxymoronic? Because the assumption is a person who has made the statement is smarter than the person who they're referring to this statement. Therefore, exemplify their own accusation by their personal representation. They become what they accuse others of. Classic projection. I just reduced it down to even one word: projection. If I were to place this in a psychological category, it's immature defensive. You claim you know more than somebody else. That the person doesn't even know they don't know, coming off like they know. And if there is a societal construct that will support that belief or effect based upon what is acceptable in certain circles, that's how those who have indoctrinated pieces of paper will use that immature defensive to their advantage. Therefore, dismantling any freedom to develop a new argument until their peers allow them to entertain something different. Then it's, a new discovery and science is never settled. And maybe the person they thought didn't know something actually knew way more than the other person did. And that's why your licenses out there are limiting your ability to evolve. But it is the egocentrics who develop these types of theories and concepts about how they keep people in boxes until they're ready to set what's in the box free. That's psychological operations. And people fall for this type of psychological operation all the time, especially when they cannot develop another argument or they're not ready for people to develop another argument. And so when the person was disputing me, they were talking about evolution and the sun and all sort of shit, and they were actually juxtapositioning a very easy argument that's so easy to go to, which is like the religious creation versus evolution. Okay, that's easy, because that's basically taking science and religion and playing those fucking games, and then saying that's what that means. No, what about in the sciences world, when Stephen Hawking for 50 to 100 years developed the Big Bang, or not develop, he didn't develop it, but he was perpetrating it. And that was a belief for many, many years. The Big Bang came from singularity. What? No. And I was taking that apart the last 4 years about the Big Bang, whether it was really the Big Bang or maybe it's just a bunch of Big Bangs, okay? And the universe keeps dying and reproducing. And I knew that, because that's what humans do. They keep dying and reproducing, but you can actually stay alive despite you evolving. So anyway, so he was just like using that argument. And then he says, then he was saying like, oh, dear child, my dear child. He was being patronizing. This is a male, probably around my age, who probably has a degree, but I don't even look at his background. I don't care. And he was patronizing me, being a vicious intellectual, brutish intellectual. And so I ended it by saying, my dear child, that's patronizing. Bye, see you later. I just ended it. But then he had to come back again and say, oh, because I won. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just take out. But this is what I use. And then I just ended. I just turned off the notifications for that. The Big Bang Theory was thought up almost 100 years ago. And scientists and the public have accepted it as the origin of the universe for over 50 years. Then, science is not settled. The Big Bang was not the beginning. Science will never be settled. That's right, no singularity. The only difference between a smart or stupid person is how well they can articulate their position while keeping their mind open at the same time. Smart, stupid depends on their audience too. When the poles flip, stupid becomes smart, which means they were only stupid smart via consensus. What are you consenting to? And that was also the premise of the independent movement. They want consensus. Well, what the fuck am I consenting to? Independent movement. So you have to even know what you're consenting to. Just because majority rules doesn't mean that majority is correct 100% of the time. It just means that at that time, during a slower frequency environment, vaccines were acceptable. Therapies were acceptable. Operations were acceptable. All the diets and all the things that they were doing back then, whatever, were acceptable for the time. The sexuality was acceptable. But now we're in climate change. And maybe it's time to rethink what was acceptable 50 years ago. Is it really acceptable this time? And so I then said, oh shit. I didn't say it to him, but then he's a brutish, like, what do you call it? A vicious intellectual. Vicious intellectualism. And so, brute versus intellect. And I even said this in my head because I'm thinking, like, here in Ohio, they're brutish people. When I said that, people in California will stab you in the back and people in Ohio will stab you in the front. Why in Ohio? Because they weren't taught to be fucking viciously intellectual and viciously psychological. I mean, maybe on some level, but when you think about it, here, I know people don't like me. They'll say it to my face. They'll just ignore me. But they won't be like, oh, here, come and hang. No. Or they'll do so many jokes that would be so at my expense. And it's a way to, fuck with people. But yeah, when you have an intolerance, you find ways, that are in your face. But no one shanked me really. But I mean, it was more of like a euphemism that people don't like you, and I know what people don't like me here. But in California, oh yeah, psychologically, they'll find ways to get you coming into their group. Psychologically, find a way to bring you in and then try to change you from within. So brute versus intellect, the speed of thought, the speed of light. Psyops uses vicious intellectualism. Hybridizing brutal intellectualism rapes the mind while the body convulses into submission. So if I didn't have the words, like that guy was saying, how he would render people speechless, and that's how he always won his arguments, because he's always going up against some religious person who was all about creationism, but didn't have the science behind his creationism and couldn't even develop that. So he thought he would win every single time. So that's how he became brutal in his ways, and I just fucking just flipped it on him like so quickly. But hybridizing brutal intellectualism rapes the mind while the body convulses into submission. And that's what that guy does. The one that I was arguing with, he basically rapes people's mind, and then the person convulses. They become so shaky with anger because they can't express what they trying to express, because a person has overridden them with their intellect. That's why you have to be very fucking smart and learn words, so someone doesn't run you over with their intellectual capability. You become just as intellectual, and even more so, and open. Because those in academia with degrees are so limited because they were taught in a different world, in a different time, in a different frequency. When you realize that's what their Achilles heel is, you'll fuck them up every single time, because climate change has been told to them. Climate change, and it will mess up even what you think is surefire, like the vaccines, like the operation, like the oncology. It'll mess up everything that they thought they knew. And then science is going to change. And it is. And so hybridizing brutal intellectualism rapes the mind while the body convulses into submission. Politics, religion, spirituality, dogmatic sciences. Vicious intellectualism is a term used by psychologist William James to describe a conceptualizing process that can lead to the assumption that one's own view of the truth is the only true one. Now look at all the activists out there. This process occurs when words are used to subsume unique particular under one name. A quality is abstracted from the particulars, and the abstraction is declared independent of the events or process from which it was derived. So that's compartmentalization. Now look at the politics, religion, and science. They compartmentalize everything. James believed that this process resists stepping outside of its own frame of reference, and that it leads to inquiry that expands on what it is already known. Those are the academics with their degrees. James used Zeno's paradox of Achilles and the tortoise to illustrate the nature of vicious intellectualism. Vicious intellectualism is the idea that affirming one's truth implies the negation of all other possibilities. For example, if you say that an object is blue, you're also saying that it's not red, yellow, or green. William James uses Zeno's paradox of Achilles and the tortoise to illustrate vicious intellectualism. Another example is when Epstein says that baseball players can catch fly balls by keeping the ball in a visual relationship with the home plate and the scenery instead of using their subconscious to identify the ball's intercept point. Achilles and the tortoise is a paradox written by the Greek philosopher Zeno of Elea in a book of paradoxes nearly 2,500 years ago. The paradox states that a fast runner like Achilles cannot overtake a tortoise that has a head start in a race because the distance between them can be infinitely subdivided. This means that Achilles would need to have an infinite number of steps to catch the tortoise. The paradox can be solved by using the concept of a limit, which is the point where the term in a sequence can be made to come as close to it as desired. For example, the limit of sequence 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16 is 0. Okay, so Lewis Carroll also wrote a brief allegorical dialogue called What the Tortoise Said to Achilles in 1895 that alludes to the paradox. In the dialogue, the tortoise challenges Achilles to use logic to accept the conclusion of a deductive argument, but Achilles fails because the tortoise leads him into infinite regression. To make money, one must spend. More precisely, the answer is infinity. If Achilles had to cover these sorts of distances over the course of the race, in other words, if the tortoise were making progressively larger gaps rather than smaller ones, Achilles would never catch the tortoise. So everything is relative to how fast the tortoise is going. There's always these assumptions. And then what it would take to overtake a tortoise. It already was ahead of him. So he had to be using, to make money, one must spend. What happens because when you're running, you're continuously, how are you making up the energy that you're using? And then what are you comparing yourself against? What are you racing against? Okay? And so, yeah, just because you think something is one thing doesn't mean it is. And you will spend every resource and go broke trying to prove your theories. And instead of realizing that sometimes things change. And what you thought was so may not be so. And people will go broke trying to prove, look at the activists out there. They're going broke, they're dying, trying to prove all of their shit. They're under the influence They're spinning their hamster wheel. They're trying to stop something they can't fucking stop. Basically, they're in this brutal intellectualism. And it's fucking brutal watching them. You're watching what they say. You're watching what they feel. You're reading all the caustic acid remarks that they have. Then they go into spirituality, all about love. And then they're using propaganda tools. Like, oh, if you stand up, everyone else will stand up. The reason why I'm alive now because of God. And that's why you're also resisting life by trying to destroy your own. Okay? And so what did Freud say? Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and they will come forth later in uglier ways. Yeah, like bad behaviors, sexual predation, criminal activity, bullying, addiction, blaming, cancer, and disease. So all these different microbes are in your body that you're not allowed to release because your parents gave you medicine and carved out parts of your body. Yeah. You know, when your body is finally trying to release those demons, it'll come out in bad behaviors. It'll come out in aggressive energy. Yes, we have a lot of sexual predators out there. We have a lot of criminals out there. There are a lot of bullies out there. People who are addicted under the influence. And they're blaming. And they also have cancer and disease. That's not a coincidence. And what did Jung say? Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's why I express all irritation that I learn about myself, about other people. And so, touche, why do you think I write, yell, offend, and not treat my disease? Why am I not religious? Why I'm not religious or political or not even resistance to change? Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, was born in Freiburg in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, today Prairie, Czech Republic. Freud's new science and Jewish heritage were anathema to the Nazi regime. They didn't like it. The Nazis did not like Freud. Carl Jung, born 1875 in Switzerland, died 1961. Wow. Was a Swiss psychologist and psychiatrist who founded analytical psychology in some aspects in response to Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis. So Freud is like about everything comes from your parents and sexuality, and right, you know, the Oedipus complex. Girls want their daddies and boys want their mommies, and that makes sense. I could see that. And then Carl was like, well, there is archetypes, analytical archetypes. Let's develop an archetype, people. Then when you have dreams, those dreams have symbols. Those symbols are archetypes, and then it kind of can give you a clue on where a person's going relative to the context. But this morning, I had some crazy ass dreams. Yesterday I had crazy ass dreams. Well, I also was releasing demons. And even my scar from my dog, which I don't feel now, before I could feel it being raised, like there was scar tissue. And now it's just so smooth. But before it was like raised. And then when the climate would change, it would like pulsate. And then you saw what I posted the other day, a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, where there was that one little part here that was raised up. It's all white and it was itchy. Well, then yesterday, the bottom part was a little bit itchy, but I think maybe that would have just been like a hive that maybe was there coincidentally, but I don't think any coincidence. But anyways, but that started, that came out and that released. I mean, it's not there anymore. I mean, it's there, but it's not, I don't have that pulsating, whatever, that itchiness. And where was I going with that? Oh my God. But anyways, but yeah, the last couple of weeks was releasing that demon within that I had. And so sometimes your body has to express all these things and it has to be released. But yeah, the archetypes, your dreams. That's right. That's where I was going. Fuck. I know. Sometimes I go off on these tangents because there's so much to freaking convey. But yeah, the dreams were releasing whatever demons I had the last couple weeks, okay? And some of it could be coming out and like, I think I dreamt like my computer. I had my computer that was all like my laptop and a bunch of other monitors that were all in a row at the end of this cul-de-sac outside. And I'm out there and someone was just like putting their foot on it and be like, yeah, okay, here's your computer. It's great. And I go back inside and I'm like, oh my God, someone could steal my computer. Oh my God, someone could steal my laptop. Oh my God. Ah. And so I go and I leave. a house to go and find my computer, but I end up in a school system. I'm stuck in the school system that has all these weird things. And it was just such a weird fucking dream. And I'm thinking, like, I must be releasing not only through the scar tissue, like through what I dealt with the last, couple years from this, but then also releasing even whatever psychological and mental trauma from wherever. Who knows where the hell it came from, but it comes out in symbols, archetypes. That's a whole Jungian psychology, is analyzing people's dreams, yes, but also understanding their archetype, what their archetype is, even developing an archetype. That's what the whole thing, that's my background, was I was developed into an archetype. And then fighting that archetype and releasing that archetype and developing a new archetype, which is whatever I'm doing today, and surviving the archetypes that are out there. Okay? And so, yeah. And so as of April 17th, 2024, the U.S. Department of State advised against travel to Yemen due to level 4 advisory. The advisory cites a number of dangers, including terrorism, civil unrest, crime, health risks, kidnapping, armed conflict, and landmines. And then somebody posted in these left wing that are right wing too. Yemen offers scholarships to all the students expelled from U.S. universities. Imagine, remember the American Taliban? Remember that back in almost 20 years ago, after post 9/11? Remember the American Taliban? And that young kid went off to the Taliban and joined, and then some other girls are married to somebody in the Taliban. American girl goes off there and realizes, oh, I don't want to live here. And she wants to come back. We were like, we don't want her back. She could be a spy. Oh my God. And then here, the encampments at 120 plus universities. So now we've turned all of our students into anti-Americans. I'm telling you, you can't make this shit up. You can't make this up. American University, Arizona State University, Aurora, you can read that. 120 universities. And so, yeah, Columbia University has all the Occupy stuff, right? New York University, NYU, right? Yale, Emerson, Tufts, Massachusetts Institute, right? Institute of Tech, right? MIT, the University of Michigan, Vanderbilt University. And then it says, thank you to the students of the American universities. And then the Palestinian thanks them, of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the takedown of America is so there through the Generation Zombies. All right. So the Vietnam War equals Gaza equals climate change. And so somebody asked on Facebook, somebody's Mind Unleashed or Mind, whatever, in your humble opinion, what is stopping world peace? I said, rest in peace. Not enough rest in peace cures. This is a psyop. Not enough cures, curses, herbs, and vaccines, right? The system wants you to beg for rest in peace, cures, and marches, weaponizing youth. Gen Z. Okay, and I said, yeah, Ohio people will shank you in the front if they don't like you, physical. California people will shank you in the back if they don't like you, psychological. They both will shank you if they don't like you. Some are just more upfront about it. Violence is fucked up no matter what. I prefer neither. So yeah, I thought people, I don't know. I was chasing after people in California, trying to stay relevant with them, and there's no way. So yeah, so I finally realized that I already knew was to be true when things came out, when someone died. And so I'm like, okay, I get it. All right. But psychologically, I thought, I don't know what the fuck. So, I mean, it's just a different way of expressing your distaste for someone who's different. Psychologically, they'll fuck with you, or physically, they'll fuck with you, either way. But still violence. It's just a matter of how much can you take. And so this young lady, she has painful, heavy periods and are ruining her life. Just like I had PMDD. She says, I feel quite lonely because nobody understands how I'm feeling. Well, that's exactly how I felt. And everyone's like, oh, you're lazy, Jillian. You're lazy. Her body is breaking down. Heavy ovulation, releasing eggs, means body's on its way to senescence. The body senses looming extinction level events. Senescence, or biological aging, is a process by which living organisms gradually lose their functional characteristics. In biology, senescence is when a cell stops dividing and ages but doesn't die. That can lead up to a buildup of old cells and tissues throughout the body. Old turds stuck in the immune system. So we have people who are full of old world stuff, old fucked up cells. And they're converting other cells to be very old and fucked up. Menopause means either you're the best copy or your body can't carry a life to term, even your own. So remember when I said, I knew even back in the early days, I said, women really are not, if you want to live indefinitely, you're not going to have a period unless there's a major change in the climate and you have a bunch of diversity within you that's causing you to drop an egg and then maybe potentially even sexuality. And so I noticed a difference even with my husband, that during the times that I'm feeling like sick, things are a bit more yay, right? And then when finally that egg drops, well, I mean, things can be yay, but not as yay. But it's still functioning. Things are still okay. I'm just not like a predator. I'm not trying to cannibalize him. And even though he tries to cannibalize me in a nice way, because that's how men are that are on decline, okay, well, that's fine. But I noticed a difference now with all these different climate changes and even whatever I hold within. Okay, so yeah, so I'm sure she's miserable, but I'm sure she's finding ways to relieve that misery through aggressive sexuality. And will she also develop a baby from all that? I don't know. But she probably has her good days where everything is great for a minute, and then it's mostly bad days and good days. But, you know, that's the thing. People don't tell you the full story. And, of course, there's so much stigma to whatever behaviors you have relative to your immune system and your hormones. You know, you don't hear the full story. Even when they give you an article, you don't hear the full story. So then you have to plug in what you think they're not saying because it fits within the biological narrative. And so, yeah. And so you are in an info war to achieve rest and peace. All war is resistance. Medical, holistic, energy healing, even unchanged behaviors. War in the name of rest and peace. Once the numbers of rest and peace are achieved, the system will stop going to war for rest and peace. Many are fighting hard for their own demise, using the propaganda argument to wake people up who already agree with them, who already agree with their version of your intention. So you're like, oh, we gotta wake people up. You can't do the VACCINESs, right? I mean, they do them, but your intention not to do the VACCINESs, but you get the surgeries and you use all the holistic remedies is no different than them using the VACCINESs. And so, yeah, blowing in the wind. This is in Forrest Gump. You remember? Robin Wright and Tom Hanks. And she sung that song, whether it was Naked or something, in one of the episode segments. Blowing in the Wind song by Bob Dylan. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand, dies, right? Yes, how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? Because there's no point in using them anymore. There's enough death. The answer, my friend, is blown in the wind. The answer is blown in the wind. Yes, and how many years must a mountain exist before it is washed to sea? That's climate change. How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Called death. Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blown in the wind. The answer is blown in the wind. Yeah, the dust of your past. Yes, how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? There you go. The rain. Remember how much rain's been raining the last couple of days? That's Shiva. That's the death and rebirth. Before you can see the sky, and how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blown in the wind. The answer is blown in the wind. Oh yeah, even the movie Forrest Gump was trying to tell you. The past is coming to life. It's here. The past is here. And so I took this from these anti-V people. I go on to the anti-V people, some of them are really heavily into the anti-V. You must be always willing to truly consider evidence that contradicts your beliefs and admit the possibility that you may be wrong. Intelligence isn't knowing everything. It's the ability to challenge everything you know. That includes those who are anti-V. People use this to reinforce the already achieved agreement called rest and peace. So you have all these people that are like the truthers are going to wake up everybody. And they're trying to wake up the mainstreamers saying, oh, you got to wake up. You got to challenge your beliefs. Well, yeah, the truth, the mainstreamers looking at the truth were like, well, why don't we challenge your fucking beliefs? They say that God is the only reason I made it this far. Amen. Which is why you are fighting to achieve rest and peace. God was trying to keep you alive, but you keep trying to destroy yourself. Okay. You're doing it to yourself. Whenever one person stands up and says, wait a second, this is wrong, it helps other people to do the same. People are fighting for world rest and peace. Abso-fucking-lutely. A dog had his chain reduced one link at a time every few days until his chain was so short he couldn't barely move. He never resisted because he was conditioned to the loss of his freedom slowly over time. It's happening to us all. Who's holding you hostage? If you want to go out there, fine. But you will be subjected to a lot of frequency, a lot of competition, and potentially be caught in the crossfire. Oh, but then they're conditioning you to stay home. Well, I guess if you don't want to survive, you go out there and resist what's going on. See, it's learning how to change with how things are going. I mean, I stay home, I stay safe. I don't like going out there too much. I know what's going on. I know what kind of danger is out there. Oh, but you've been told it. No. What will it take? Will you need to be in an actual situation for you to be like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't be out there? Do you want to wait for something to happen before you realize that maybe it's time to change the way you do things? And so this is how the system gets people who are already in resistance to keep staying in resistance and putting themselves in harm's way voluntarily. Those who are anti-food, anti-air, anti-water, anti-change. The system has no problem with you going out there and proving everyone how free you are by resisting what's going on. Proving how free you are by just going out there, flying on planes, trains, and automobiles, taking your drugs, your alcohol, your sex, getting all your operations. Oh, look, I'm still out here. Look at you. Oh, you're at home, Jillian. Oh, poor you, Jillian. But the environment has changed. It's causing people to age extremely fast and causing even their cancers to resurge, causing them to resist symptoms to such an extent that their counterattacks basically self-annihilates them. And every time they go and get chemotherapy, they go and use the cannabis, they go and get another operation. It's another nail in the coffin until there's nothing left to treat. System is fucking smart. Maybe they aren't conspiracy theory. Maybe they just see something you don't. Maybe they've learned something you haven't yet. Maybe they understand a pattern you don't see. Maybe they aren't crazy. Maybe they actually see through the propaganda and even in the face of ridicule are trying to translate it for you. What if we're in agreement? What are we agreeing to? Because maybe the mainstreamers see something in you that you can't see in yourself, and they see you going off on the fucking deep end, doing the same thing they're doing. They might be taking a VACCINE, but you're taking a bunch of cannabis. You're getting all your different B12 injections. You're taking the GCMAF. You're getting your operations. And maybe somebody in the mainstream is against operations, and they see you getting cataract surgery. They see you getting things sliced out of your body. And they're like, oh my God, I really want to listen to them when they've committed themselves into the system that I'm part of, but I don't do the operations, but I do all the holistic stuff. What makes your sin better than my sin, right? What makes your medicine better than my medicine? Blowing in the wind. Scientists discover remains of buried plant deep within the earth. You should read it. That's funny. Oh yeah, the Grateful Dead. Electricity sign on the head. Direct energy weapons to your brain, but you had a chance. But you have a chance to survive it right in your face. They want you grateful to die, so you get a choice. Follow in your parents' footsteps or decide and choose a different path for yourself. Right in your face. And that's why I posted that whole rest in peace, fourth turning world, rest in peace. There's a season. The birds. When they say they're trying to save humanity, maybe it's because they're trying to save humanity from you. Take the VACCINE, take the therapy, take the remedy, take the supplements, take the cannabis, get oncology, get the surgery, get the implant. It will save you. It will help you. It will save the world. It will help you from dealing with you. It will silence you. You want peace? Rest in peace. You want world peace? Mass VACCINATION campaigns. Take this stigma away from cannabis. Everybody silence their symptoms. The system isn't lying. You just assume their perspective is your perspective, and you assumed correctly, but you're also in denial. That's the activist world. Okay? Yes, the system is taking you down, and you're taking yourself down, but you're in denial. Even though you innately know what the truth is, you still don't want to believe it, so you say it's a lie. But the truth is the truth. The system is saving humanity from you. You choose to take yourself out. So I go to these anonymous perspective groups. What scares me the most is not the fact that our media is lying to us. It's the fact that most of you believe them. Maybe they're telling us the truth and we resist the truth when we don't want to hear the truth. The truth is the truth, regardless of your feelings. And then I also slap them with the same thing they told everybody else. There's no such thing as your truth. You can have your opinion, you can have your feelings, but the truth has nothing to do with you, your feelings, or your opinions. The inability to grasp this concept is why so many continue to fall for every psyop. The truth is the truth. And that includes all the anonymous and the activists out there. If they can't include themselves in this, then they are part of the psychological operation. They don't even know it because they're in it. Some of you think listening to science, what they have in quotes, and when you're actually listening to paid promotional ads by trillion-dollar industries that make up their own science, and the majority of that science benefits them, not you, I'm like, oh my God. Because the science doesn't benefit you doesn't mean it's not science. It just means you're not aware of another argument that is in your favor. And so your inability to understand science doesn't mean it's not science. It just means you have to develop another credible argument in science. But that would mean you must understand the basics before you develop an argument. You cannot develop an argument without understanding the basics of a cell and a protein and what are the laws of life and death. The United States is considered a global leader in scientific research and development. And in 2022, 61.7% of the world's top scientists were from the U.S. The U.S. is also the most prolific publisher of high-quality science in the world, according to Nature Index, which tracks the world's best natural sciences research. However, China is rapidly closing the gap within the U.S. And so that meme below that I read to you is very inconsistent with its accusations and claims. To say that companies use fake science with the word science in quotes and then say the majority of the science without quotes is used to their own benefit, not yours, just diminished the argument. You gave people your truth and then took it away. And then you made an accusation that was based in science. You developed an argument of a logical fallacy. The premise assumes the conclusion. And that's all those are against the J world and against the salt. You already don't believe in the science provided to you, therefore, it is fake, and it's only benefiting them. And how many people said, oh, Jillian, your proof, it's only benefiting you. I don't see the proof. Okay. When you already work from disbelief, it won't matter what someone proves to you through science, because your conclusion is it is fake. Your conclusion is they're only ones benefiting from it, is that they are the only ones benefiting from it. Therefore, it is not credible. But the fact they're benefiting from it means that the science is credible because someone bought the science presented to them. You just told them that if you're the only one benefiting from it, then that means that somebody else is also confirming, or it would be a benefit to me. The only time I get a benefit is when somebody else is consented to something. Consensus is benefit. Therefore, but the fact they're benefiting from it means that the science is credible because someone bought the science presented to them. Any company who benefits from the science means that somebody already bought the premise and the conclusion. Just because you didn't buy the science doesn't mean it's not credible or beneficial for someone or everyone, even if the outcome is not what you agree with, or the outcome is what you agree with because you've already approved it in other experiential circumstances. You just couldn't see the connection, therefore the ignorance. 0 turns into conflict 1. 0 plus 1 equals 1, same intention and outcome. When you replace one scientific method with another, with the same premise and the outcome, and then claim the other method was not based in science, you have just negated your argument and annihilated your premise. So you're saying that your sin is better than somebody else's. Your medicine is better than somebody else's. No, it's just different. You're in equilibrium. You're in an impasse. You've proven the science was sound, and you didn't know it. Everything was about a standstill and cure. So even those who are against the J world proved that my information was actually correct at the time because they've silenced what was to be life through conflict, through war, through resistance. Everything is about resistance when it comes to arguing the science behind something with a preconceived intention and outcome. Silencing conflict with conflict until the energy disappears or is silenced. What if 40% death rate is a benefit to everyone? Less competition. Everybody wins. The science wins. The pharmaceutical companies win, and so does humanity. So when you're getting something FDA approved with a specific intention, there are specific statistics and margins of error that are acceptable. So when you're getting a VACCINE or you're using that methodology of oncology or a cure, the rate of death and life was appropriate for the intention and acceptable. So what if 40% death rate is a benefit to everyone? Less competition. Everybody wins. The science wins. The pharmaceutical companies win, and so does humanity. Be careful what you claim is not science or beneficial to the human race, because the argument could be twisted around on you, and whatever you're doing to counter and replace what the system has provided to people that's relatively safe could be actually worse, if not even more deadlier. And those who are promoting all the different therapies that they've developed through their concoctions, the Ivor, MECTIN, all their detoxes, all of their different things, the elderberry syrup shit that they sell on the internet, all their different tinctures and shit, that's deadlier than what the system is putting out there because we're in climate change. The intentions are more accelerated. And so then you become a mercenary for the system. That's those who are selling you everything to silence your symptoms, selling you protection. Yeah, because they're selling you protection from you. You're all this life, right? You're feeling symptoms, you're in pain, you're screaming and squawking, and then someone's like, oh, here, take this. And then you shut up. They just silenced your ass. They just silenced your fucking ass. Those cannabis sellers, those detox sellers, those medicine sellers, those gurus, those massage therapists just silence the life in your body. They don't want to fucking hear it. So they'll pay you so that you pay them to shut you up. That's exactly what people do in the medical holistic energy healing world. They pay people to shut them up, to silence their life, little by little until all-out annihilation. So deficiency equals war equals politics, religion, spirituality, biased sciences equals decline, then a blip in the timeline of history. Or humanity. 6G's coming. And then when other people own you, you become the human sacrifice. Bruce Lee was owned by everybody. He said real living is living for others, which is why he's dead. He lived and died for people. And so a slave is he who cannot speak his thoughts. That makes sense. It is possible to maintain your own emotional self-sufficiency, even your physical self-sufficiency. Then everything is just division of labor. And then you won't have to develop clones of yourself to keep you company and give you meaning. And you won't have out of control suffering. Because people hate suffering when they bring it on themselves. Okay? I'm watching Selling the OC, people who maintain friendships with the opposite sex who could be attracted to each other and they were single. If they were single. They are the options. That's why I don't want friends. They become a substitute for something, or they become an option for something else. So I become emotionally self-sufficient. It's impossible for any one person to fulfill all your needs nor should they. You have to be the one to fulfill most of your needs. This is how I have conditioned myself to be relatively emotionally self-sufficient, and I don't tax others with what I need or want from them. Emotionally self-sufficiency will develop a space for biological self-sufficiency, and that opens up doors to other opportunities as far as self-sufficiency. The world opens up. First, you must be emotionally self-sufficient. And so I was watching the new Netflix show Girls Trip with Queen Latifah, and they're all about relying on their girlfriends for emotional support, slamming the infidel husband, saying a woman should never sit with being disrespected and should never be afraid to be alone, and so she should leave her husband, who disrespected her, to go hang out with her girlfriends, who will be her emotional punching bag, and she won't be alone like she was saying in her speech, right? Yeah. She won't be alone anymore. She's going to now be with them. So essentially her girlfriends basically just said, hey, we'll be the ones to be your addiction instead of your husband. You can give all your pleasure, money, and paradise to us, not to him. All right? It was her girlfriends that gave her the motivation to leave the relationship. It wasn't her. So she just traded one addiction for another. But it is a process. But trading your husband or boyfriend for your girlfriends isn't being alone. If you can't be emotionally self-sufficient, you can still have a relationship with someone who respects you. And if you can be emotionally self-sufficient, you can still have a relationship with someone who respects you and you respect them. But I think if you can figure out how to be emotionally self-sufficient in a marriage, that is a great way to develop a space and boundaries. And then you won't turn to addictions or other people. That's my world. Oh, I gotta fucking pee. Hold on. All right. And so, if you can be emotionally self-sufficient, you can still have a relationship with someone who respects you and you respect them. But I think if you can figure out how to be emotionally self-sufficient in a marriage, that is a great way to develop space and have boundaries. And then you won't turn to addictions or other people. That's my world. But it took me 7 years to develop this mental clarity. Nobody can tell you this. They can tell you their experience, but you'd have to develop a path for something like this on your own. You can't buy this kind of mental clarity. There is no drug in the world that will give you this type of clarity and emotional self-sufficiency. Even those who meditate hang out in religious meditating together, like the Buddhists, okay? And the Hindus, people that do that in those different religions. Humans are social creatures, but they take their social needs to an extreme. That's why you have the internet. You can block the extremes, and you can start over again. And then you learn how to express yourself. That's the path to freedom. Self-expression without the intent to harm anyone. You give people the choice. And then you become the architect of your own world using words. Your own words, not regurgitated or copied from somebody else. You have a lot more to say, supported with somebody else. Quotes from the past, present, or the future to help drive your own argument. So I say a bunch of stuff. I write a bunch of stuff with my own words. And I develop an understanding of the basis of the world around me and all the different philosophies. And I develop my own. And then I will use certain quotes from scientists and philosophers and even psychologists, and well, that's the same thing as scientists, and to support where I'm coming from and even dispute what some people have said in the past. I don't always agree with stuff from Stoicism. I don't always agree with things from like Aristotle or even Socrates, but there's some things that I do agree with, and I will put that out there. But your thoughts are mostly what people see, not somebody else's. So when you read, it doesn't matter what you read. If you can take the devil's advocate, if you can fill in what is not being said and develop your own characterization, and even in defense or even in opposition. That's why reading is so important. But you don't want to also regurgitate unless you absolutely have to. And regurgitation in the beginning is very important until you can develop your own thought process. When you can regurgitate, it means you have the ability to memorize something. But then how do you think about it? What do you think about it? What's your problem? What's your reaction? What's your solution? But reading, it starts off with reading first, not just copying somebody else all the time forever. but you still have to read. But your thoughts are mostly what people see, not somebody else's. That's the path to freedom. Architects must learn all the different rules. Architects are designers. They have a vision. Architects can defend their position. Lawyers defend other people. Architects defend themselves. So you're really in the activist world trying to be a lawyer to people. Oh, I'm going to defend you. That's what happened in the J world. Look what happened over there on Dr. Phil. You know, those people that didn't even have the issue, but they were defending people that they knew nothing about. Those that are like, I'm going to take up for you. I'm going to take up for the downtrodden, take up for the weak. So what? You fancy yourself to be a lawyer? To defend people? And then you make judgments? Yeah. If you're going to have an argument, defend yourself and take up for yourself. And if you're going to make an accusation, you better have some kind of proof. And sometimes you don't want to go and accuse someone specifically, but you can go and look at the industry and see what they have done to people and show the proof how they have radicalized people into self-destruction. And those that are in those industries can question whether or not they want to be part of it or not. And so lawyers defend other people. Architects defend themselves. They design the world according to them. When you have a healthy defense process that you designed yourself, you take accountability for what you allow in and what you keep out. And then you won't need a lawyer to defend you. You stay out of trouble. You stay out of harm's way. But first, emotional self-sufficiency is paramount. And when you use your words match with your emotion, that's the chemistry of new invention. You can't be so controlled that you strangulate creativity, and you can't be so chaotic that there's no organization. Tapping into both sides of your brain is so amazing. That takes emotional self-sufficiency coupled with biological self-sufficiency. And then you leave society. Because society is always cherry-picking what they need to survive. And they could be sucking you dry, taking the best from you. And that's your friends and family, sucking the life out of you. I post what I post not to make you think I'm better than you. I post what I post when you're ready and the situation presents itself. You have the path to make a change. And you set yourself up financially and even medically to deal with what you'll have to deal with when you're ready to change. Some of you are going to retire soon. Some of you want a bunch of money. Some of you are going to be an empty nester. Some of you will be divorced and living on your own. Some of you are looking for your own place. Some of you will have roommates who need to be aware of your situation. It's always good to have plan B. Not everything works out the way we intended through or thought would work out. So when situations present themselves to set yourself free in some way, shape, or form, there's at least a starting point. And I have no idea what that is for you. Sometimes you just have to simply leave in order to get some kind of clarity. When you kill for yourself, you will only defend yourself. And when backed into a corner, you will do what you need to do to protect yourself. When you are radicalized to kill for a person, place, or thing, politics, religion, and science, you become used as a tool and a weapon of mass destruction. If the system radicalizes you, killing yourself in defense because you think someone is harming you, who is nowhere near you, or you gave them permission to invasively cut into you, that's how the system got you to feel like you own yourself by defending yourself against an invisible enemy. And then you kill for your lifestyle and belief system, which means you would destroy yourself. You just destroyed yourself. You died for your politics, your religion, and your science. You died for your family and your friends and your country. You died for your friends. You died for somebody else's sins. And you resist change so much, you will destroy yourself at your own hand. You give somebody else permission through the federal government. And when your immune system is trying to release, and it needs to be noisy and a little bit painful, you destroy yourself little by little by destroying the energy, so you die for peace. You die for Western rest and peace. And then children are quelled from life. The parents keep silencing their life and their immune system or carving it out. And kids will die for their parents, and parents will die for their children. And that's how they got us, through friends and family. The past culture was a major capitalism slavery at the expense of a person, place, or thing. The system made it desirable until people started killing people over money, wealth, and power. That world is leaving. When you don't own a person, place, or thing, you won't kill for it. People kill for their addictions. They kill for their ownership. They kill for a lot of things. They kill for happiness. They kill for power. I kill for no one. I don't intend to own anyone or a person, place, or thing. Now you see why the system does what it does. And people are enslaved, or they enslave somebody else. They kill for their slavery, and they kill because they are enslaved. They do it to themselves, and then they blame someone for the slavery they put themselves into. That's the activist. People will kill for peace because they cannot handle life and they allow people to torture them. All right. I'm just gonna leave that there right now. Okay. I could read this about my husband and I. Nah, it's okay. Yeah. Climate change and my scar. Yeah. So I'm not gonna read that about my husband, but that's the thing. I mean, what about my husband? Well, why has my marriage lasted for 13 years? Because I don't have any kids. I take care of myself. I didn't shackle my husband with heavy emotional financial expectations and financial obligations and children or animals or a heavy social life. So no children, no health issues, very small circle, and I'm constantly improving myself. Okay, and that's pretty much what it takes, because sickness and stress and expectation, heavy expectation, lack of respect is the end of a marriage. And I don't care like how much you think you're improving yourself. It's what does that improvement entail? Because what does that mean, improving yourself? I don't know. Some people improve themselves to death. And so I guess it's, I don't know. There's no one size fits all. Everyone has what they think a good marriage is and what a good relationship is. And some people will be sick and they will die in that relationship and that person left by themselves. And so how do you become the best person in your marriage? Assume that one day you'll be on your own. And so learn everything you can and pretend that you're on your own, even in your marriage. And then you can still enjoy the person for who they are. But when you're not prepared for what could happen, then you're not bringing something new. I don't know, man. I'm just giving you my side of it. You know, my husband is there to keep food on the table, and I make sure he doesn't have to worry about me in body, mind, and spirit. But that's the way we do. Some people have very different ways of doing things. Some people party together, hang out together. They have kids together. They go off and do traveling, and they both are okay with dying together. And that's a good marriage to them. Okay. Then they shouldn't be an activist, in my opinion. If that's your intention, is to die together, and hopefully you guys are pretty much in confluence. But what happens if someone gets sick and they go through a major crazy situation where they can't do the things they used to? And your life has completely changed. People do stay in marriage like that. That's, you know, some people can, some people cannot. Are you strong enough to take care of somebody else? When that day comes, if it comes, will you be strong enough? I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. If you be the one to be strong, you be the one to be self-sufficient. Even if the other person does what they do, you be the one to make sure that you'll survive and can take care of them if something happens. See, I already had it laid out that if I needed to take time off, that it wouldn't get in the way of his world. I'm saying, if I were to play the game of being drugged, being under the influence, even 10, 15 years ago, and we were raking in the dough, and we had a nice house and 2 cars and insurance and a hefty, you know, social life and all that, and all of a sudden I get sick, and I have to now stay home to deal with my sickness, and the bills come in, hospital bills, and things don't get paid. All of a sudden you see a reduction in that lifestyle. You see, and then there's stress behind that. And then there's fights. When one person is so strong and they're not prepared for the reduction in the lifestyle, they're not prepared to take care of that person, then that's when people break up. Some people can handle some of the changes because it hasn't completely impacted their lifestyle. But when your lifestyle is impacted by someone who is declining, you can't always guarantee that they're going to decline with you at the same rate and then die with you. There's no guarantee that's going to happen. So it means one person is going to decline faster than the other. Are you prepared to take care of them? So if the person who's strong in the beginning lives off of their own income, and the other person who's probably pretty weak, who knows at some point something's going to happen, they got to deal with it. You got to condition them to only depend on their income. So that way, if something happens and then they have to go down, then you can reduce the amount of shit, and it won't be so astronomical. It won't be so traumatizing with the reduction in lifestyle, because you didn't have a major one to go and reduce from. So let's say something happens in my world, and my husband, something happens, and I have to work at what, 40, 50,000 a year, 30,000 a year, whatever it is, it's over here. $500 a month in mortgage. We can let go of the car and get a cheaper car. We can let go of the boat. He already has another boat that he can use. He can scale down. He has a freedom to scale the fuck down. It's when you are so mortgaged up to the yin yang and you have such an expectation from your friends and family, financial expectations. People are trapped. But I want to give my husband the freedom so he's not a slave to expectations around him. That's why I want to stay where I'm at. I'm not trying to go and buy up and try to go get more expensive everything. Fuck no. I'm not trying to keep up with anyone. I can give a fuck about what people have in their stupid, highfalutin lifestyles. I want to know that I can live off a minimum wage and still live relatively okay and comfortably. And I know I can scale down. That's freedom. When you have room to literally move, even when don't have to move. But those that have such a highfalutin lifestyle, and they have so much to take care of, their kids, their mortgages, all of their expenses, they will die for all of that shit. They're trapped. And so because he had, when he was feeling stuff like I was feeling stuff, and he took that day off, not 2 Mondays in a row off, because he was using the stupid chainsaw that vibrated the crap out of him and it made his back hurt. And I know, I'm sure it hurt. Yeah. At least he was able to come home early on a Friday and still take off on a Monday, 2 Mondays in a row. And he's great. He left this morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. But if he needs to take a break, he can. He knows what he can afford. But if he chooses to go and buy a bunch of bullshit, then I don't want him a slave to all that bullshit. That's why your friends and family are very expensive to keep up with. People will go broke. They will die for their friends and family to keep up with all the pleasure and paradise and the baubles. But I won't enslave him that way. I want to give him room to move. Not move away, but move even within, to stay home if he needs to. That staying home won't make you go broke for a day, a few days. And that's freedom. Freedom is being on your own for the most part. Freedom is knowing how much you can live on. And so these people are saying like, oh, these retiree or these people that retire, they can't retire living comfortably. Yeah, because you have such high expectations. You want to travel, you want to have your nice car, you want all your little baubles, you want to buy your grandchildren everything under the sun. You want to buy your children everything under the sun. Yeah, how can you live comfortably when you have to take care of everybody, when everybody looks at you as a bank account? There's no fucking way. But I could live off of what I have right now. I could live off of $2,000 a month and live comfortably. $2,000 a month. I didn't even have to go shopping for food this weekend. I ate enough food to keep me alive. Spaghetti, meat, pork chops, milk, a little bit of ice cream that I've saved. I still have yogurt. You know, I mean, when you finally streamline your immune system and streamline your finances and streamline everything, you don't need that much to live on and be happy. When you can start cultivating your brain and not be out there in pleasure in paradise and gallivanting like a social fucking butterfly, you can actually save a lot of money and still be happy and live comfortably. And enjoy the weather, enjoy things, and figure out how to fix your shit. There's a lot to learn out there. So, that's how I've been able to stay married for 13 years. So I also put boundaries on how much someone takes from me in body, mind, and spirit. I don't put myself in positions of taking care of other people. When I see indicators of some shit, I get the fuck out. But I don't make him get out of a situation. I let him see things for what they are, and then he can choose whether or not he wants to suffer in situations or not. But I don't make my husband do anything. He makes his own choices. I have my feelings about stuff, but I can't make him do shit. But he does tell me what he wants and what he needs as far as stuff, and we both agree on stuff, and that's what makes us okay. Nothing is ever perfect, but things are better than what they were probably 10 years ago. And that's not saying much. We've been married for 13 years. But I'd say things are better than even 5 or 6 years ago. Even 4 years ago. They're vastly better. Because I take care of myself. All right. Good luck. It's going to be a journey if you even survive it. All right, bye.